on the story, I'm Lynn Smith. Why is the U.S. making it near impossible for some babies to find a forever home? Like Ethan and Aiden Devash Banks. Fraternal twins, one is a U.S. citizen, the other is not. And that's because both born via surrogate, but only Aiden is the biological child of their same-sex dad, who's a U.S. citizen. Ethan is the biological son of the dad, who's an Israeli citizen. Families like these are learning of a government policy where children born abroad are denied citizenship unless they are biologically related to U.S. citizens. Roe and Adiel Kaviti are another couple who used a surrogate in Canada.
We are both American citizens. We've been married for 6 years now. Our son is American citizen, and we have a 2-month-old baby girl that is, her application is not approved. Basically, what we were told is that effectively our marriage means nothing. Saying that our daughter was born out of wedlock just means that she's not our daughter. It's not a real marriage. It's not a real family. That's basically what the State Department is saying.
Some, including a number of congressional Democrats, are calling on the State Department to change this, saying it indirectly punishes same-sex couples who may seek egg donors, surrogates, or adopt overseas. And it's not just same-sex couples. One family seeking adoption in China learned of a new State Department policy. The once common practice of pre-matching children was now not acceptable and could lead to adverse action. Complicated rules for real families, and the lives of little ones who need a forever home are at stake. For more on this, I want to bring in my panel, HLN legal analyst Joey Jackson, John DeGarmo. He is an expert in parenting and foster care. He works directly with families and adoption agencies globally. Also, Allison Blix. Her first child, Lucas, was born in London. He was denied citizenship because he's not biologically related to Allison. Her wife carried this little one. They are now suing the State Department. So, Allison, I do want to start with you. Tell me what you and your wife experienced and what the State Department told you.
So the day that we went to the embassy to get Lucas's citizenship, we thought everything was going to be fine because I had done a little bit of looking and thought all would be fine. We went to the counter the first time, they told us to wait. We went again, they told us to wait. And then they called us up again and they said, is everything you said true? Yes. Okay, well, and who were the eggs from? Who was the sperm from? They started asking us all these really invasive questions. And I thought, why are they asking us? This isn't going to end well. And then in the end, they said, well, with all of that in mind, your son Lucas doesn't get American citizenship.
And did they say why? What rule did they point to?
So at the time, they didn't really point to a rule. All that she said was, because you're not his genetic or gestational mother, he is not American.
And that is the rule that the State Department continuously points to when it comes to getting a statement from them. They also said that they don't comment on pending litigation. But you and your wife, you live there in London. Your wife carried this baby. Why fight for this? Why is this important to you if you're not living in the U.S.?
Yes, for a number of reasons. One thing is I am American, all of my family is American, and it is important to me that my son is also American because it is an important part of his culture. And he has a brother, we have a second son, and our second son, Masi, was given American citizenship because I gave birth to him. And so the government is saying to my children, you, Masi, you are good enough to be American. You are connected enough to your mother. Whereas to Lucas, they're saying you are not connected enough to your mother to be American. And that no.
John, you work with adoption agencies. You work with these families that are dealing with things like this. What's going on? What has changed?
Well, there are times where a U.S. citizen may adopt a child, but the child has never formalized a U.S. citizen. Just because a U.S. citizen, a couple may adopt a child, does not necessarily make the child a U.S. citizen. Sometimes the foster care, the adoption agency may not be familiar with these rules. Sometimes the adoption agency may not give this information to the adoptive parents. And then there are those times where the adoptive parents know what to do, but they just don't go ahead and formalize the citizenship for the child. And this is the result.
And that may be something that adoptive parents don't know. But Joey, that's for adoptive parents. In Allison's case, I mean, this is something where she's a legal guardian of this little boy. She didn't carry the little boy, but it's her son. And what are her rights? Joey.
I'll say this, Lynn, in reading Allison's story, I have to tell you that it's just so gut-wrenching what she's going through with her wife. We need to be in a society, and in fact, because of the law, essentially, the law says you can marry if you're a man, if a woman. It shouldn't turn on the fact that Allison gave birth to one of her children, and because her wife, who happens to be Italian, gave birth to another off U.S. soil, it just makes no sense. And so, we have to get to a place, and it's an easy fix. It's a fix that the legislature in this country can do tomorrow. They can pass a law that essentially clarifies this. In the absence of that, Lynn, what you have is the lawsuit that Allison has, and I'm focusing on her case because it's significant and it also sets precedent, remember. And so far, of course, the State Department, in its opposition to her case, attempted to throw it out. The judge said no. And I think she will prevail and will get to a place where people, it doesn't matter your same sex, whatever you want, if you're outside of the country, we should have a policy that's uniform. And if you're biologically related, of course, to a U.S. citizen, then you should get the birthright. And that needs to be fixed by either the legislature or certainly the courts can, I think, prevail in allowing her to win her case.
And John, your wife is not a U.S. citizen. You have 3 adopted children and 4 failed adoptions. Explain to me what happened to you.
Well, it's interesting. When we had our oldest biological child was born in a different country, and we had to ensure that the child was a U.S. citizen before we moved back to the United States. But yes, we've adopted 3 children from the foster care system, and we've had 4 failed adoptions. Those adoptions were sabotaged for whatever reason it might be. But yes, in an international marriage, if you will, we have to make sure that the paperwork is complete, that the Social Security office has this paperwork, that children have a passport, that they have a certificate of citizenship. Absolutely.
How do you explain this as your children get older, Allison, when it comes to what's happened to you?
I hope that I don't have to. I hope that this is all resolved. The problem right now is Lucas is 4 and he's starting to understand and ask a lot of questions about everything. And so we try not to talk about it around him right now because he's not at an age where he can understand it all. But I hope that by the time he is old enough to understand, that what we can talk about is how we fought for him and children like him, and that we won, rather than that it's still an issue.
Joey, in Allison's case, there's the situation where her wife carried the baby, that she has no blood relation to the child. In the other cases, we've seen one fraternal twin is biologically related to one dad, and the other biological twin is related to a dad that has an Israeli citizenship. I mean, there's so many different scenarios. How do you make sure that there is a blanket law that can apply to so many different scenarios, because there are modern families now?
That's absolutely right. Lynn, look, you hit the nail right on the head. We live in a different day and age, a different society. And as a result of that, I don't think, again, it should not turn on the fact that Allison, and as a result of her wife being from another country, her wife gives birth, we're not going to recognize that because she's from Italy. But if it's Allison, we will recognize that. How you fix it is that you have a blanket law. People who are married, it's your wife, right? Your wife and wife, husband and husband, however you want to term it, you're married. And as a result of that linkage, that should be enough to further a policy where the child is given recognition to be a United States citizen. And so it will, I think, change. I think her lawsuit will be successful. And in the event that it's not, again, I would hope that Congress, we could prevail upon Congress to change the laws to make them sensible so that one child doesn't feel like an outcast and another child feels, in another way. So I know why she's not talking about it at home.
And John, just finally, I pointed out this is not just same-sex couples that are facing some of these challenges in the interpretation of the law. Some of these people that are adopting from China, as I said, the State Department now saying this pre-matching is no longer going to stand. What does that mean for families that want to adopt, and more importantly for these young children who need safe and happy homes?
Well, you're absolutely right. There are thousands upon thousands of children who are ready for adoption, waiting for someone to adopt them in the United States. And there are those myths and misconceptions about adoption that scare so many people off. This is just going to add to that. And we have children who are aging out of a system, who are never adopted, who do not go to finish high school, who end up homeless, who end up incarcerated, and are struggling with tremendous trauma and emotional instability because they're never finding that forever family. Every child deserves a forever family.
Yeah. Joey, John, Allison, it is a complicated discussion because there are so many different dynamics in families, but that is something that we have pointed out, and Joey, as you have pointed out, is now legal, and so the law should reflect that. And thank you for your insight and all of your opinions on this. You take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.